Hi, this is Robert with Cruzbike, and today we're going to be assembling a complete Vendetta V20. Once you open your Cruzbike V20 box, you will remove all the loose items, including the seat cushion and headrest cushion, the carbon fiber seat pan, and the small box containing tools and other items. And after that, your V20 will lift right out of the box, just like that. Also in the box, you should find the Cruzbike Romance Guide and also your J-Cool tools, which we will use to assemble the V20. The first step is using a pair of clippers to remove the zip ties holding the wheels onto the frame. Located between the wheels will be the headrest tube. You'll want to remove that and set that aside for now. And once the wheels are free, set those aside as well. And after that, remove any remaining zip ties holding the frame parts together and remove all of the protective packaging from the frame. Once all the packaging is removed from the frame and wheels, we can begin assembly of your V20. I want to take a quick minute to go over the drive wheel of the Vendetta. The hub is removable because the axle is convertible. In case your cassette and freewheel pop off the wheel, simply insert the axle all the way through. Take the cassette and freewheel and at a slight angle, pop it back into place very carefully. And once it's in place, hold it firm and put the axle back through. Keep everything nice and snug. And keep the cassette facing up and you should have no problem there. Next, let's open the small parts box. And inside we will find the rest of the goodies we need for assembly, including the skewers. The front skewer, note, has no springs. The rear skewer, standard 100mm skewer. Inside we will also find the pedals. The pedals, note, also are marked on the inside with a little R or right for right or left, depending on which side of the pedal you look at. But they are marked. Also inside the box you will find the chain. And also in the parts bag you will find a small bottle of touch-up paint. And also the parts bag. Let's open that parts bag here really quick and see what we have. In here we have a spare derailleur hanger. You'll want to set that aside in your spare parts. We also have a cassette spacer that can go on the spare parts. We don't need that. We have the pivot clamp bolt. There should be 3 washers on there. We'll get to that later and during assembly. Also in the box you will find the quick link for the chain. We'll want to set that aside for now for the chain. And also you will find 4 bolts and 4 nuts for installing the carbon fiber seat pan. Also included with your complete V20 is the J-Cool tool set, which we will need for the rest of assembly. The new version of the Perez clamp is already installed in the frame. The first thing we're going to do is install the headrest tubes. The clamp can be loosened with a 3mm Allen and simply pulls up to tighten the tubes against the frame. Loosen the bolts until the clamp lowers all the way to the bottom of the frame, as you can see here in the video. And once there's plenty of space there, the headrest tubes will slide past the Perez clamp. And from there we can adjust the headrest up and down for final fit later once their bike is assembled. And when you tighten the Perez clamp bolts, they only need to be tight enough to cinch the tubes into the frame. These do not have to be super tight. This is simply a hand tight situation to keep the headrest tubes from sliding in and out. First thing we need to have on hand is our pivot clamp bolt. We're going to have 2 washers on the sleeve side and 1 washer on the bolt side. It's very important that these washers go on the outside of the pivot clamp. It's very handy also to have a little bit of grease on the sleeve of the pivot bolt itself. We're going to take our number 4 Allen out of our J-Cool and loosen the chainstay bolts just enough that we can pivot the chainstay back and forth to make it easier for us to install the front end, but not so loose that the front end falls to the floor. When tightening these 4 bolts on the chainstay, it's very important not to cinch these down super tight. Once again, 1/2 turn past snug is all it's needed. We're going to loosen the boom clamp here. And once everything is slightly loose, we can pivot the whole front end up, turning the handlebars to level, adjusting our pivot clamp. Make sure that the middle cable housing is in the middle between the pivot clamp. And then we will simply slide our sleeve portion of the pivot clamp bolt through the pivot clamp, making sure the 2 washers are on the outside. And then we can very carefully snug everything down to keep it from moving around too much. And once we have that, we can install the other side of the pivot clamp, the bolt with 1 washer on the outside, using our J-Cool tool with a 5mm adapter and the actual 5mm Allen. And make this just snug for now so it's not too tight, but tight enough to keep in place. Next, we're going to remove the front fork protector. And then we will pop the chainstay over the end of the fork like that. As you can see here on our derailleur, we already have a hanger pre-installed for you. For this next step, I'm using a rack stand to hold the front wheel in place. This makes it much easier if you have a friend or a stand to mobilize the front wheel. We're simply going to pick up the front end of the frame and carefully put it down over the front wheel and down into the dropouts on the fork. We're going to take the front wheel skewer. Note again, there's no springs necessary on the skewer here. And we're going to insert it through the chainstay and through the axle, leaving about a finger width or so. That will allow us to install our derailleur. Note that the hanger has a concave side and a flat side. It only goes one way. There is a notch in the chainstay, and the derailleur assembly here simply goes between the chainstay and the fork, with the concave side to the inside, sitting between the notches, making sure the alignment looks good there. And once that's in place, the skewer can be pushed all the way through and tightened down with the nut on the other side. And once you tighten down the fork, it will seat the derailleur hanger into the chainstay. And here we can see the alignment of the derailleur and the first cog looks good. This should be preset from the factory. Next, we will install the rear wheel. We want to make sure that the part of the hub that would house a disc brake, the 6-bolt side, faces the left side of the bike. We will insert the skewer into that side of the wheel. Roll the wheel into place and then tighten the skewer down. Quick note on making adjustments: if we loosen the boom clamp, slightly loosen the chainstay clamps and the front skewer, this is how we can pivot and adjust the front end. You will do this once assembly is completed for your X seam. The front slider can also move in and out independently of the boom to adjust for your fit. Please see our other YouTube videos on fitting and adjusting your cruise bike specifically for you once assembly is completed. For now, we're going to snug down these connections just enough to prevent them from moving around too much while we complete assembly. Now let's install the carbon fiber seat pan. Locate the 4 bolts and 4 nylock nuts, which should have been included in your hardware package. And also locate the carbon fiber seat. We're going to first use the front 2 holes and install 2 bolts in the front holes of the carbon fiber seat, and then place the seat down onto the frame through the 2 small wings that align the seat. When you install the first 2 nylock nuts, only thread them on 2 or 3 turns. We will tighten them completely later. At first, we want them to be a little loose so the seat has a little bit of play up and down, so we can install the top 2 bolts. The fit might be snug, but they will fit. After those are fit, we can install the nylock nuts, and using our J-Cool tool and a 3mm Allen. And on the J-Cool, we're going to use the adapter and the 8mm socket. We will snug down all of the bolts until there is no play in the seat. Again, these connections do not need to be super tight. They just need to be tight enough to make sure that the seat is not rattling up and down on the frame. Using a 3mm Allen, you can access the Perez clamp bolts right through the holes in the seat, loosening them as needed to be able to adjust your headrest up and down as necessary when you do your final fitting. And then simply snug those bolts down just enough to prevent the headrest from sliding in and out of the frame. Once we have our headrest snug for a preliminary setting, we will install the seat pad. We'll simply remove the backing from the Velcro strips and line up the front of the pad with the front edge of the seat. And then we will very carefully lay the seat pad down. You want to put a good amount of pressure on the Velcro and make sure it's nice and secure and cures before you pull it on and off of the carbon fiber. The headrest pad goes on either by sliding over the tubes or by using the Velcro straps to go around the tubes. Now we can install the pedals on the cranks. We'll remove the small bag from the cranks, and inside you will find 2 pedal washers. And we'll take our pedals. It's a good idea to grease the threads, and using our J-Cool with a 6mm adapter, We'll take our pedals. Here I've pre-greased the threads on the pedals. Locate the left and right, which should be indicated inside the pedal mold there. And we'll install a pedal washer over the end, and using our 6mm J-Cool, we will install the left pedal and the right pedal. Now we will locate our quick links for our chain and our chain here. And we want to straighten out our chain and drape it over the small cog through the front derailleur, as you can see here. And then we're going to very carefully route it over the cassette, as shown in the video. And then we are going to go around the outside of the first jockey wheel of the derailleur, and then back down through the cage and around the back side of the lower jockey wheel. You want to make sure that the chain avoids hitting any metal parts on the derailleur cage. There's a small guard that you can see in the video here, and you want to make sure that the chain does not go around and over the guard, but instead goes around the top wheel and then straight down through the cage, avoiding any contact with anything but the wheels in the cassette. Here we can see the chain going over. And then we're going to make sure it goes straight through the cage, avoiding any metal parts of the cage, and then around the back side of the lower wheel. And we'll locate our quick links and install the quick link on the lower part of the chain here. Now, if you cannot pull this tight, another easy way to seat the quick link without any tools is to very carefully rotate the chain backwards, being careful not to jam anything up since we don't have everything seated quite yet. If we very carefully rotate the chain around until the quick link is on the top, and then we hold the wheel tight and pull the crank, and it will pop that quick link into place. Before you ride, you'll want to make sure you close the brake caliper like that to make sure you have the proper braking. If you have a work stand, you want to put the bike in the stand, check your shifting, check your brakes, see our other YouTube videos for a good initial fit on your cruise bike, and that completes your complete V20 build. Thank you so much for watching, and happy riding.